up? This is Lucky. Welcome back. Got a lot of ground to cover in this one. I'm going to cover a lot. This is part 2, and this is where I talk about the magic word accessibility. This game right here, Deathmatch, St. Lucia against a really awesome guy and a great player, Zorboid. He is fantastic. He took me like 4 out of 5 games he won, but this was a decent match on my part. Good games to you, kudos. But let's get down to business, and the business is this keyword, accessibility. The magic word. Now, this is not my word. This is Ubisoft's word. This is a word that started being floated around outside of developer interviews over about a year and a half ago. What accessibility means is that any player, new or old, can come and sit down, particularly new players, sit down to a game and easily pick it up and play it and be relatively competent at it. It means mainstream. Accessibility in and of itself is like good. It's relatively a good thing. It means more players playing the game. For players, for us, it means less lag because there's more players. It means better competition. It means more DLC. It's good for publishers because it means more money. It's typically a really accessible game, such as Call of Duty, is a really good game because you have more people, more lobbies, you have better pings, and overall it's generally a very good thing. So, if accessibility is good, then you say, Lucky, that's awesome, right? Accessibility is good. Well, it can be good, but the thing is that Anisee's approach to achieve accessibility, their strategy for accessibility, has been at the handicap of competitive play. They have chosen to dumb down competitive play or the competitive aspects of the game to make it more accessible to new players. They are sacrificing competitive gameplay and competitive elements for accessibility. And this is ultimately a totally failed approach. There is a way to overcome this, and I think that there's a lot of hope for AC multiplayer moving forward. But to do that, I think we have to understand the changes that have been made to hurt competitive gameplay and look at what can be done to undo those changes and move forward, and why this strategy is a failed strategy. Okay? Let's look at some of the changes. Auto lock while stunning in low profile was added in AC3. This is completely a let's help new players type mentality. This is a give me, and what this does is basically it allows the player to know who their pursuer is without them making any effort as far as observation on their own. This is a give me by the game. This is basically a handicap. And I know that there's arguments, and I know people have said, well, if you're stunning someone in front of another player, then that person's going to know who you are anyway. That is not true. And Revelation's Deathmatch against even the best players, the very best, high prestige, very good, very competitive players, you could stun someone on a deathmatch map and they would not automatically know that you were their pursuer. And you could basically adapt to that and come back around, reapproach that player, and get a good clean kill on them. I've seen it. It's happened a million times. I know it can be done. That completely changed with AC3. Now you are automatically given away. And this does not encourage competitive play. Removal of chases for the obvious reason that basically it confused some players. So, obviously this is something that hurt competitive play in favor of helping newer players. The merge of the kill and the stun button, which really simplifies the thing. The problem with the merge of the kill and stun button, yes, it does simplify, but at the same time it removes the competitive player's ability to choose whether to kill or stun in a tight situation, like you find yourself in competitive gameplay, where you have 2 or 3 or 4 players in a very tight area, and you need to determine exactly what you're going to do, whether you're going to stun first and then kill, By merging those two, it has removed that player choice. And player choice and the ability to control your avatar and do it consistently is absolutely imperative for competitive gameplay. Making run one button and one speed, basically. They nerfed defense. There have been less and less defensive abilities. Basically, remove stun lock, remove drop stuns. They more or less remove the ability for knife stuns, although I know you can still do it. But they have continuously nerfed defense and basically removed hard stun abilities from the game. The thing is that competitive players like defense. Defense is good. Defense is what separates your elite players from your really good players from your good players. And it is defense. And the removal of that has in my opinion, hurt the competitive aspect of the game. Automatically jumping towards locked targets. This is something that is absolutely put in to help newer players so that they don't get lost, so that they jump towards whoever they are. This is not something that helps someone who is comfortable free running. This is something that actually hinders someone who is comfortable free running. Stronger whispers and heartbeats. Whispers and heartbeats have just gotten stronger and stronger in AC3 and in Black Flag. Ranged abilities. The addition of ranged abilities for every player absolutely favors newer players. And with gun and poison dart, these are horrible additions to competitive gameplay. What they allow someone to do is basically get a kill without making the effort of actually penetrating the person's defense. And this is totally a handicap. And it should be removed. Or at the very, very least, basically ranged abilities should be radically nerfed. Like, basically their cooldowns doubled and stuff. And so I think when they added that third ability in AC3, it has become a much more ability-focused game. And it already was. Abilities were already overpowered, even in Brotherhood and in Revelations. But by adding the third one, it's become even more so. Scoring favoring quantity over quality. Black Flag, to its credit, actually did a great job reversing that. I still think it slightly favors quantity. AC3 definitely did. To their credit, though, they actually have started to balance this out a little bit. Let's hope that trend continues. Easy streaks, easy variety, and kill buffer. Boy, the easy streak gravy train just like peaked out in Assassin's Creed 3. It was so easy with kill buffer to get your high-end streaks, your 550s, and your Animus hacks. Animus hacks were going off multiple times in every deathmatch lobby. That's just insane. That's ridiculous. Over half the players are getting extreme variety. Again, that is absolutely ridiculous. And even though they've reworked variety, it's still... At one time, Brotherhood, basically variety separated the people who played semi-well with the people who played, good, greater variety, and the people who played extremely well, those who were able to get extreme variety. And even in Revelations, that carried over to some degree. You had to do some level of work to get extreme variety, and that separated you. And now there's really not that separation. And what that is that's just a leveling of the player base, basically. That's leveling your competitive players, bringing them down to the same level as your newer players, while giving your newer players buffs to bring them up to the level of the competitive players. And that is achieving accessibility without actually, basically, by sacrificing competitive gameplay. And that's exactly what's wrong with Assassin's Creed multiplayer. 4 or 5 pursuers on people, on leaders, on people in first to third place. Hay bales and acros were nerfed when at one time they provided you basically a strategic advantage where if you were able to hop in a hay bale, you were able to get an extra distance on your kill and take advantage of that. And it was smart play. Or you're able to run up a wall really quickly and get that quick acro and avoid smoke. Now it's actually almost more dangerous to do that than it is to just run in and contest the kill. And then there's the black flag version of Assassinate. I mean, nothing, I won't even begin to go into this, but nothing says, you know, let's dumb down competitive play in favor of helping newer players. Here's a classic example where Ubisoft has listened to basically non-competitive players trying to make this game accessible. Admittedly, it's what they originally envisioned Assassinate to be, rather than embracing the competitive aspect of the game. And it has severely hurt Assassinate. Now, to Ubisoft's credit, they actually do listen. They do try to listen. I think the problem is they're actually listening to the wrong people. Activision, Treyarch, when they look at Call of Duty, they focus on the competitive gameplay because they understand something that Ubisoft Fantasy doesn't understand. Competitive gameplay in their tournaments is what drives their mainstream popularity. As long as that core group is happy, then basically other people will flock to that group and focus around them. As long as they keep that core group happy, they've got a solid fan base, a solid base to work from. Then they can just add around it. And so as long as their heart is strong, everything else will kind of fall into place. Two, they understand that the competitive game players, their competitive gamers, actually understand the game better than noobs or more mainstream players. That's who they listen to when they go to make balancing and gun changes and other types of things. They really focus on the competitive aspect of their game. And the result has been extremely strong, completely unrivaled fan base for multiplayer. And it is because basically they put so much weight on their competitive gameplay. And they realize that as long as they take care of that, then everything else will be okay. And that's why Ubisoft, that's why your strategy of accessibility has completely failed. You would think that after 2-3 games, arguably, where you have tried to make the game more accessible, we would have more players. But as I discussed in my last video, I think the exact opposite is true. We have less and less players, and the community is getting smaller and smaller. That is my personal opinion. Now, I know that there's a lot of dedicated fans out there and a lot of people who still love the game, and I still love the game. I sorely love this game. A lot of people do. And even people who aren't playing anymore still have a soft spot for this game, and they want it to be good. They want it to come back. But for it to come back, Ubisoft has got to embrace competitive gameplay. They have got to listen to their competitive fan base over basically the whims of anyone and everyone. And I personally feel that that's the only way out. Now, can they achieve accessibility with this game? Now, let's be honest. Brotherhood and Revelations are not accessible games. The basic core of Assassin's Creed multiplayer is not an accessible game. It takes skill. It takes a wide variety of skills. You have to understand free running. You have to be good at observation. You have to understand your abilities and when to use them, how to use them. You have to understand defense. You have to understand so many different things, and they all have to come together. But it's that depth is what so many gamers actually love. We love the fact that it is more difficult, that it is more complex. And I think the original fan base is drawn to the fact that it was more difficult and more complex, and it required thought and deeper critical thinking. And you had to merge a large variety of skills to be good at the game. That's what attracted people. Difficulty, that's what makes Flappy Birds great. That's what makes Dark Souls so great. People like a challenge, and people need a challenge. The problem is, inherently, that it's very difficult for new players to come in and play the game. And that's Ubisoft's challenge. They want to grow the player base. They need more players. We as a community need more players. So we need the game to be open and accessible. So how do they do that? How do they achieve competitive gameplay without basically sacrificing competitive gameplay and still make the game open to newcomers so that when they join a lobby, they aren't immediately demolished by veterans. First and foremost is better matchmaking. To Ubisoft's credit, I have noticed the matchmaking is much better in Black Flag and AC4. And I believe that if we had a large enough community, enough people to draw from, enough players to draw from, it actually would match you fairly well. So I think that they've got that well in order. The second thing I'd like to point out is Wolfpack. Wolfpack is the most brilliant thing that they've done. Wolfpack is basically competitive multiplayer in a training mode against AI. Continue to build on that idea. Continue to make it more of a training mode. Continue to take Wolfpack to the next level so that people can come in and play Wolfpack and under skills like how to avoid defense, how to handle different defense, how to handle different abilities, and how to get the best kinds of kills. That is one fantastic way to achieve accessibility without sacrificing your competitive side. 3, I think you ought to go back and actually limit people. When they first join up, levels 0 through 10 should be forced to play nothing but Wolfpack. 10 through 20, perhaps, they're allowed into Deathmatch, or maybe Domination. Levels 20 through 40 are allowed Wanted and Manhunt, and only once you've gotten past level 40 are you able to go in to the more difficult modes like Assassinate. I think that is one way to keep new players around, to keep them playing long enough so that they're actually good enough, so that by the time they actually get into a competitive match, they're able to hold their own. Because once you actually do learn the core skills of Assassin's Creed, you will love the game. This is a great game. The problem is having the opportunity to train yourself to get to that level. Those are great ways. I have high hopes for Assassin's Creed multiplayer. I really do. I think we can turn it around. But to turn it around, Ubisoft Annecy has to embrace the competitive aspect of the game. They have to seriously look at these changes and roll a whole lot of them back. They have to embrace competitive gameplay. And if they embrace competitive gameplay, their core fan base will come back, it will get stronger, it will get more loyal than ever before. And once you have that, then other people will follow, and the rest will be history. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. I know I kind of rambled past that. I apologize, I'm a little hoarse, but this is a very important topic to me, and I really wanted to cover it. Thank you again. This is Lucky. Peace.